Good evening and welcome to A Deadly Silence. I'm your host, Larry Curtis, and with this special edition of A Deadly Silence, I'm actually going to relinquish the hosting duties, and let me introduce you to Greg Pina, who is a financial advisor. Who you work for, Greg?
Commonwealth Financial Group.
Commonwealth Financial Group.
Yep.
And our purpose today is to kind of bring into focus the very hotly contested issue in the city of Brockton, focused on the casino, the resort hotel development and casino. So, Craig, I'm going to turn it over to you and take it away.
So this is kind of like watching someone else drive your car.
So, is it? Okay, yeah.
I get to ask you
Don't worry, I'll wrestle control if I have to.
Now, Larry, there's been a lot of talk around the city about the proposed destination resort casino going into proposed to be built at the fairgrounds. Why don't you tell some of the viewers some of the background behind that and why this is important to the city?
Well, I think in order to kind of understand what's happened here is that you have to step back a little bit. 4 years ago, the state of Massachusetts and its voters made a determination through the electoral process that gaming would become a viable commodity within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Since that time, the Gaming Commission has been performed, and as part of that process, there were 3 full-service gaming licenses to be awarded in addition to a slot parlor license. As we have seen over the last 3.5 years, the slot license actually went down to Plainville, Massachusetts, and they have been under construction for well over a year now, and they anticipate an opening in late June, probably early July of 2015. In addition to the slot parlors, there were 3 gaming licenses, and these would be full resort gaming licenses that would be issued. The Commonwealth was split up into 3 regions, and we saw out in western Massachusetts that Springfield was awarded one of the gaming licenses out there, and we saw recently in Everett, late last year, that Everett was awarded the license for the second region within the Commonwealth, leaving the 3rd region, and what's Region C, up in the air. Now, Region C was left up in the air for kind of a multitude of reasons, because if you're familiar, there has been the Indian tribes down here that have been trying for many, many years to get its recognition so that it could basically go forward and secure some land and develop a casino similar to what you might see at Foxwoods or Mohegan Suns. It'd be an independent nation unto itself, basically. That's dragged on for 2.5 years and nothing's materialized, so the Gaming Commission made a decision that they were going to open Region C for the 3rd license. Mm-hmm. There were an initial request for proposals that were performed. Those requests for proposals were turned in. Nothing happened with those. I think they kind of said, oh, let's throw them all out and have a do-over, if you would. So there was a second call for requests for proposals that were performed. And what's been happening is that, nobody's really paying attention out there as to what's been happening. And an organization called Mass Gaming Entertainment, LLC, which is a subsidiary of Rush Street Gaming out of Chicago, they came into the city of Brockton and teamed up with George Carney for the fairgrounds and began to negotiate with the city of Brockton for a host agreement. It's important to understand a host agreement is the foundation of a gaming parlor getting off ground.
Now, it seemed like everyone woke up one morning and all of a sudden we have a host city agreement. Behind the scenes, it didn't work out that way. These things never work out that way, but the general public thought they just woke up one morning and there was an agreement.
There's no question the city of Brockton woke up one morning and all of a sudden, they're being told that there's a host agreement between the city and Mass Gaming LLC, and that there's going to be a potential casino in the fairgrounds. Part of that anxiety was that the competition on Region C, which was to include New Bedford and Somerset, they didn't meet those deadlines. So there was a kind of a sense that, well, if Brockton, and Mass Gaming and Entertainment LLC met all the deadlines, and they'd probably be the one to be awarded the license,
And so as far as I know, with the other 2 proposals, with Brockton's ahead of them because the parcel is already assembled and the financing.
Well, what happened is that, and it's somewhat a little bit unfair to Brockton, quite honestly, is that the Gaming Commission made a decision to extend the filing for these other two, one city being New Bedford, the town of Somerset. So there was a 45-day extension. I believe that's due to run through about May 4th or 5th, that when the Gaming Commission will come back and see if either or both of those locations have completed all of necessary city agreements and filings for their fees and so forth. So Brockton is certainly ahead of the game, and it's an exciting opportunity that we can get into shortly. But the key here is that when a city enters into a host agreement, it must hold a special election for the voters to come out.
That's by state law.
It's by state law. The mass gaming laws are that the host city, or the proposed host city, must hold the special election so that the voters have the right to come out and make a decision whether they want to support this development going forward or not support it. So you're right. We woke up one morning, found out that somewhere around February 19th, this host agreement took place, between the city and Mass Gaming and Entertainment LLC. And then all of a sudden, there's a series, fast-paced moving electoral process takes place. A date is identified for a special election, and that date was May 12th. Well, in order for that election to take place, it has to go before the Finance Committee and then before the full City Council for review and confirmation. And what we saw during that period is that basically on March 10th, on March 3rd, it went before the Finance Committee, and then the following week it went before the full City Council, and an agreement with a full support by the City Council that we will hold a special election on May 12th. 9 weeks to put together a special election, And what's kind of transpired from that period of March 10th, when the council approved it, probably up till literally last week being the weekend of April 5th, is that there was a lot of anxiety going around the city. I mean, myself included. I'm a resident, I'm a voter. I woke up to the same way you did, saying, what is this all about? And I think what we experienced here was a lot of questions that were being put out there in relationship to a lot of concerns, which we'll touch base on shortly, but no real feedback or answers,
Yeah.
And what we found is that it took quite a while for that information to come together. And there were some legal issues associated with that to ensure that the gaming regulatory issues were being complied with. And then the election, even the question on the election itself, that only was certified literally earlier this week. So that now the election office can make the ballot so that those that may not be in the city on the day of the election will be able to, pull an absentee ballot out there as well.
Now, I've got to be honest, in full disclosure, when they were considering the Raynham Park location, we heard about Middleborough. These were all potential locations for a tribal casino. I was a little jealous. I thought, well, why not Brockton? Why not the fairgrounds? This is what I was thinking in my mind.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then when I woke up that day, and I really couldn't believe it. So personally, I was excited about it. But the residents have other concerns.
There are a lot of concerns that are out there right now. And when you really look at the different concerns that are out there, the ones that pop out almost immediately, the public safety aspect. There's the question of traffic, and that traffic may be at the forefront right now in discussions. There's a concern of the closeness and the proximity to the Brockton High School, and will property values be affected? And the one that honestly nobody can really answer is how will the money be distributed within the city?
Yeah, and that comes up. That's a question of how the administration allocates.
It's a combination of how the administration will allocate the funds based upon budgetary requirements, and whether it be directed to the city specifically or whether it gets portioned out to the school department. But ultimately, in the end, the mayor prepares a budget. The budget goes before the city council for approval. The city council can only take away.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
They cannot reallocate.
Now,
yeah.
I've actually taken the liberty or the responsibility upon myself to call the alderman in Des Plaines, Illinois, where there's another Rush Street. Rush Street Gaming actually is a parent company of Mass Gaming and Entertainment.
Correct.
There's a Rivers Casino is owned by Rush Street Gaming in Des Plaines, Illinois, and there's also one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I called the councilors in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the alderman in Des Plaines. They said that the people out there had the same exact concerns about public safety, about real estate values, about traffic. None of these fears ever materialized. They found that a Neil Bloom organization really delivers what they promise. I tried to squeeze something negative. I asked them, "Do you have anything negative to say?"
So you were doing some homework behind the scenes,
Absolutely.
as to being able. You'll be running for a citywide office shortly.
Yeah.
You've already announced, so that's no secret. But obviously, those are questions that the voters out there are concerned with. So when you look at the public safety aspect as an example, we think primarily crime. That's what the mindset of the public is out there. How much crime is this going to bring into the city, per se, And when the reality of looking at it, correctly, is that the Destination Resort Casino will probably be the safest place in the city, short of the police station itself.
Lights, closed-circuit TV everywhere. They'll have their own security. They'll have police details.
They'll have their own security internally and externally for the grounds. They will work in conjunction with the Brockton Police Department as well. And quite honestly, if within the host agreement there is language that says that public safety, there'll be commission a public safety impact study, so that if there are any things that stand out, that need to be addressed, that those things will be addressed going forward as well. Traffic.
I live less than a quarter of a mile from the fairgrounds, and that is the number one concern, especially traffic on Belmont Street, and residents in my neighborhood are concerned about people cutting through in side street traffic. What kind of value does Mass Gaming Entertainment bring to, what kind of remediation are they going to make? What are they?
The current information that's out there right now is that there's been some traffic studies that have been performed. Keep in mind, Belmont Street, Route 123 is technically a state road, coming off of 24. Excuse me. So you've got a state road, you've got the Old Colony Planning Council that has to be part of that review and development process, and Rush Street Gaming has made a commitment, I understand, of up to $8 million for any and all alterations to be able to allow the free-flowing, smooth flowing of traffic to and from the casino.
And this is in addition to what the Commonwealth is already committed to renovating Belmont Street.
Correct. Right. It would be in addition to. And I mean, quite honestly, if we've got an opportunity for a developer and an investor in the city of Brockton to, upgrade our roads, then you better believe it. But also keep in mind, this is a $650 million investment on the part of Rush Street Gaming and Mass Gaming Entertainment LLC. They are not going to build and invest in a property such as the fairgrounds and not be able to get people to and from
exactly.
the resort in a timely fashion.
And they're also not going to invest $650 million. Now, this is Neil Bloom's own money. He's not going to invest $650 million for something that he thinks is going to fail.
Absolutely not. You're not going to see it fail. You had the issue of the closeness to the high school. If you were able to see on the overlay that was done at the West Junior High presentation on April 9th, you would have seen how the landscaping from within the fairgrounds around Forest Avenue, heading up to Thurber, the parking, the outdoor parking, open outdoor parking in addition to the parking garage itself, was really kind of creating a buffer zone. There was a berm with a kind of a lagoon, if you would.
Yeah, that's right outside the entrance to the high school.
That's going to be outside.
About a 6-foot berm.
Right.
Yeah.
Something, So there was a lot of thought put into the concern of the proximity to the high school, but nothing that's going to allow anybody exiting out of, Memorial Drive coming out of the high school,
yes.
I think, and you can either go right or left. There's not going to be any entrances to get into the property from that side of
Yeah.
Forest Avenue. You
Now,
know.
let's address the closeness to the high school. People are concerned that somehow, I know it's an adult facility where you have to be 21 to get into, unless it's a show, 21 to get into the casino. There's concern about it being across from the high school. What kind of?
Well, again, if you go back to the security aspects that are going to be required on the part of Mass Gaming and Entertainment LLC, there will be tight security. You know, millions of people pass through casino doors every year, you know, and can they be 100% effective in preventing somebody from getting in there? Statistically, no,
Yeah.
you know, but you better believe that, you know, that they have security measures in place that will allow them to, you know, screen anyone that they think may be, you know, prepared to be underage so they don't get into the gaming casino itself.
This is one thing that Patty Hogeberg is a president of the Board of Aldermen in Des Plaines. She told me that they have a self-policing policy where they actually give financial rewards, financial incentives to their employees for reporting underage gamblers. So they have their employees and they self-report. So if they know they're going to get fined, but they take their responsibility that seriously, that they'll be willing to be fined as long as they send a message that it won't be
Yeah,
tolerated.
it won't be tolerated, right. And again, you know, the naysayers will want 100% compliance. Is it realistically real? Not realistically, but is it 99.9% pure like the ivory snow? Absolutely.
And then again,
Yeah.
is there 100% compliance at every Tedeschi's? Do they not sell scratch tickets to people underage?
Well, there you go too. I mean, we don't have 100% compliance in our liquor laws in the Commonwealth. That's why you have the sting operations that you see every year out there
Yeah.
being performed, you know, by the public safety departments out there.
Yeah.
And same thing with smoking. You know,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you know, same thing from that perspective as well. You know, the other issue that you mentioned was the property values. You know, there's no known loss of property value that I've been made aware of personally as part of a resort development from the other campuses that Rush Street Gaming has put out there in other parts of the country as well as up in Canada.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, there's, you know, it's certainly a concern that somebody would address. If anything, property values might go up, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
but more importantly, your taxes are going to come down. you
Yeah,
know,
and
you know.
what are some of the big benefits the city can expect to realize from a
Well,
development like this?
The biggest benefit,
Excuse me.
or the two biggest benefits that the city can realize is first and foremost, is that it will receive a $10 million a year annual payment in lieu of taxes, basically. And this is a guaranteed, you know, payment of $10 million a year. In addition to that, you're going to see 1,500 permanent jobs come into the city that are going to pay, on average, of about $50,000 a year with salary and benefits included, and that those jobs will be permanent. And more importantly, Brockton residents that are qualified for those jobs will have preferential treatment, preferential hiring, you know, there. And my comment was that, well, nobody has gaming experience, so
Yeah.
who has preferential treatment? Well, part of what will take place on actually May 2nd is there'll be an economic development workshop that will allow Brockton residents only to come into at the Massasoit Conference Center and sit down and hear a presentation on the different jobs that would be available as this project would go forward, and the training and education as part of, you know, that. Keep in mind how much it costs to educate an employee today.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're employing 1,500 people, you know, in a development like this, you don't want people leaving. You
Yeah.
want them to be educated and compensated, you know, fairly for their services. And more importantly, maybe they progress, you know, as time goes on as well.
And I remember them saying that they were going to offer dealer schools. They were going to pay for it, have it on site.
Correct. All of the necessary training to make sure that any and all the employees associated with the development are going to know what the rules, regulations, and requirements are.
And more than just
yeah.
more than just gaming staff. There's wait staff in restaurants, kitchen staff in restaurants, housekeeping staff in the hotel. We didn't even touch on the hotel. That's a big part of the
Well, I
development.
mean, you know, as part of the development, you know, if you kind of looked at the picture behind us here, you know, you see off to my far right, your left is The hotel that's going to look like it's about 6 stories tall. It's going to have about 225 rooms. That's going to be connected into the main campus of the casino itself as you come along through the center area. Inside that complex, there are going to be approximately a half a dozen restaurants that, if you're not into gaming, you can come into the development and take in a nice dinner or a lunch, and then also as part of that, there's going to be an entertainment complex. Not a movie theater, but kind of a theater for shows, performances and things of that nature.
Yeah, from what a good comparison is like the size of a Cape Cod melody tent or something like
I'm not sure the exact
yeah.
size, but, it'll
Something
be
like
certainly,
that.
that's the venue type of that you'd want to be looking at,
Yeah.
from that perspective there. Keep in mind, too, that a development of this size is going to require construction. 1,400 union jobs, again, with preferential hiring to Brockton residents who have the qualifications, will be out there immediately that they start breaking ground, and that will go on for approximately 2 years
Yeah.
for the construction phase, from
And
that
it-
perspective there.
There's also preferential treatment for vendors because they use services. They
On
use
the,
goods and
on,
services.
absolutely, on the business side of things, any services that the resort destination casino and hotel would require, if you are a vendor here in the city of Brockton, you will have preferential rights to bid and compete for that business here as well. You got to be a Brockton business. You've got to still be competitive.
Yeah.
But you'll have the first rights.
And this is another thing I heard from the other communities is when they promise this, they deliver. Most of the people that work in these casinos live in the local community. Most of the people that service these casinos have
Yeah.
businesses in the local community. And that's-
There's some side issues here as well that you've got to take into consideration when we're talking about the benefits. A complex this size is definitely going to require water and sewer. So we're talking about, somewhere in the area of about $1.5 million in relationship to the purchase of water and sewer, to support.
Personally, as a former member of the Water Commission, I know we need to sell water.
Yes.
We're very different from other communities. We don't have a shortage. We have an abundance, and we need to sell water.
And that abundance is above and beyond with the desal program that we have too, right? Yeah, which we pay for and not use,
Exactly.
So the water question, and with the recent upgrades on the sewer treatment facility of over $100 million, there's capacity there that's not going to be a problem there as well. I think, the other issue that you need to think about here is that Mr. Carney kind of stated it pretty clearly on a couple of occasions over the last month. He is going to sell this property and it is going to be developed. But there is no development that he is aware of anywhere that is going to bring to the city of Brockton $10 million in addition to 1,500 permanent full-time jobs.
Exactly.
So I guess kind of like the scales of justice, you've got to weigh those pros and those cons. But those pros, from a standpoint of economic development for the city of Brockton, far outweigh some of those cons that might be out there right now. And as we see in the mass gaming requirements, any casino that is up and running has to pay an annual payment into a fund that if there are extenuating circumstances that develop as a result of the operation of the casino, that basically the host city or even surrounding towns will be able to apply for funding to offset any added costs to that.
Yeah.
So there's some mitigating funds that the casinos pay into on an annual basis, and if there was a offsetting mitigating issue in the town of Avon, then Avon would be able to apply to the Gaming Commission for compensation on that. The other pieces here is that this election coming up on May 12th is really, really vital. It's not going to cost the city anything. Rush Gaming or Mass Entertainment LLC, they're picking up the cost of this election. It's probably going to cost $100,000 to run this election in the city.
Yeah.
It's important also because we do get several questions on this over the course of the past several weeks. Where do I go to vote? This election is exactly as if it was a city or a state election. If you are a registered voter and a resident here in the city of Brockton, and we have 7 wards, 28 precincts, so you know where your polling place is, where you normally would go to vote. It's exactly the same thing that's happening out there. You are going to wake up the morning of May 12th, polls open at 7 a.m., they'll stay open till 8 p.m., and when you go down to your polling place, you'll go in, identify yourself, you'll get a ballot. The ballot is a kind of pretty simple, straightforward ballot. It will ask you the question, are you in favor of this development moving forward, yes or no? There'll be an explanation as to what yes means, there'll be an explanation as to what no means, but it's a very simple yes or no, and it's the only question on the ballot.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, do we have an overlay of the site plan?
There is an overlay of the site plan that just came out. I don't have one here with me, but from the presentation that took place back at West Junior High School, if you go to the website, www.yesforbrockton.com, there is an overlay of the site plan that will show how it's going to fit on the fairgrounds, the proximity to the abutters properties. That particular area is zoned for any developer to basically stay 20 feet off of the abutters property, off the street basically. You know, Mass Gaming Entertainment LLC has agreed to move that into 80 feet. So there's 4 times.
With landscaping in between that virtually makes it invisible.
The landscaping aspects, the berms we talked about earlier on the Forest Street side to protect any of the, concerns from the high school and visibility. So absolutely, a lot of thought and preparation has gone into this development. People say it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is really one of those.
I've asked people, hey, you remember the last time someone came to Brockton and said they wanted to invest $650 million? If you don't remember, it never happened.
We're not in the 18 years I've lived here anyways.
It's never happened.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I think that, what's really beginning to happen now, and we've got 27 days from we're airing this program, with 27 days from today when we're taping the program. But basically, the city of Brockton is now getting answers to all those questions and concerns that for about 4 or 5 weeks we're kind of dangling out there like a hanging chad, so to speak, you know? Yeah. And I think as more and more information becomes, realistically viable out there, and it's not hearsay, or it's not, one-sided, if you would, that the voter's going to be able to make an educated, decision. There are social, moral, economic development concerns with any project of this magnitude. It could be any development. And I'm a voter. When I go into that booth, I take my social, I take my moral, I take my economic development opportunities, whether it's for a project of this magnitude or a candidate as yourself running at large, come November. I'm assuming you're going to make the primary. Yeah. That I look inside myself, is this the best thing for the city of Brockton? In all honesty, I know on May 12th I'll be voting yes for Brockton, and I hope that everyone else out there would as well.
Fantastic.
Greg, thanks for coming in and taking my chair away from me for the day. On behalf of all of us here at A Deadly Silence, we hope you enjoyed this special episode. And if you need further information, yesforbrockton.com, or you can call the office at 774-776-2400. Have a good night.